Okay, should we start?
Yes.
Okay,
We're good to go.
we're gonna cover everything about typography. No, not at all. The topic is like super vast. I've always liked typography and fonts and play with it. It's like I can remember when I got the internet. When I got internet access, the first thing I started to do was collecting fonts, and it was very difficult at the time. But I found over the years various ways to play with font and various ways to bring them to Webflow and to propose new services, new products to the clients, to my clients. So I would like to share some ideas that I find nice with you, and along with other things. And of course, we're going to talk about variable fonts at the end of that. Okay, so we can start. You can follow me along if you click on follow me. If you click on my icon, you can actually follow me, and I will unveil things like that during the presentation actually. So just what is a typeface and what is a font? Clash display, for example, this is a typeface. This is like a font family. It's made of many fonts, and a font would be Clash display, medium, or bold, or something. And funny enough, it's font was made of a drawer with LED characters for printing presses. And they were sorted in a case, and that's why we call the big letter uppercase and the small letters lowercase, because they were sorted like that in the drawers. So that was just an introduction. We can just follow here. It's the first time I really use FigJam, actually. We're going to quickly talk about font formats. Font formats, it's very easy now. It used to be like there used to be a lot of font formats for the web. The first time I brought a font on the web was for Internet Explorer 3 with the birth of EOT files. It was like a revolution, but no one was using that. Today, we can safely say that go for the WoW 2, and they're supported by almost everything. There's a notion of size about font, and we're going to talk about variable fonts right now. Because if you look at here, if you look at the font size, you will see that choosing a variable font may not be the most safe way to bring fonts to your project. You may, if you were only going to use just a few fonts for your project, the variable font could be like very much bigger than what you wanted to use originally. So be aware of that. And you cannot bring all the fonts to your Webflow project. For instance, here you have two examples. Robotoflex has like a lot of different variations. We will get to that later. But it has a huge weight. It's 1.7 megabytes. Still okay for Webflow. But Recursive, that has like a lesser amount of variations, cannot be loaded into Webflow because it's over 2 megs. It's 2.3 megs, so it cannot be loaded. We will get back to this. Just a word about the font libraries that you can access by sideloading your fonts into your project. So Adobe Fonts and Google Fonts, just to name them. Beware using those libraries. I've been using. I had to backtrack and to spend a long time to disengage all my project, all my clients from Adobe Fonts, because to begin with, everybody is using Adobe Fonts very badly, actually. The licenses provided by Adobe Fonts hardly allow you to just provide fonts to your clients. They should have their own account, and they should pay for exactly what they're gonna use their fonts for, the number of visitors, and etc. The problem is here is like, if you're if you're using Adobe fonts for your clients, you're gonna like maybe do 10 new projects a year with Adobe fonts, and the day you're gonna leave Creative Clouds, you're gonna put all these projects in Jeopardy, because you're gonna have to change the links to the fonts and to change the fonts. So it's very, very difficult to engage on Adobe font unless you're very sure that you're gonna pay it forever, and or that you're gonna make your clients get licenses, Adobe Creative Cloud accounts and licenses for their projects. It's not the same for Google Fonts, because Google Fonts so far is free, but there is a big GDPR problem. For years now, everybody was saying like, it's not a big deal. The use of fonts and font tracking are never going to be enforced by European countries, against GDPR. And it's so not true, actually. This year, a lot of northern countries in Europe, like Germany, had a lot of problems with Google Fonts regarding GDPR. So it's not safe at all anymore, not even for the small websites. So you can still download the fonts and upload them to Webflow. This is what you should do. Absolutely, this is what I recommend. Try not to disperse yourself and to leave a lot of your projects behind, hooked on Adobe Font or Google Fonts or other libraries. I just wanted to note that Adobe Font is still a great collection of fonts. There's like a lot of classic fonts that you can use, but not on the web. And you can still browse their website, because they have like a great editorial content. All those blogs here are links that you can come back later on to click on, and you can check all the links I've laid out for you. Don't hesitate to ask questions. Just a side note, I'm not going to enter into too much details about this, but what is a typographic scale? It's how it's what you decide your typography to look like, the size and the space around your typography. And I have written, you don't have to invent your typographic scale. Typographists have worked their ass off like forever to determine what is good looking, what is nice to read, and you don't have to revolutionize everything every time. You can Google typographic scale, and just reproduce them in Webflow. I have linked one that I'm using very often. I take this one, the typecast, as a base. It disappeared from the web, so it's like a link to webarchive.org, the Wayback Machine, but someone has reproduced the scales on GitHub, so it's easy to check. I have also here this experiment I've been working on for a while. It's to highlight that you can, if you work hard enough, you can achieve what we call a vertical rhythm typographic scale. It means on this image, you can see that like every line of text, whatever paragraph and headlines I'm putting, every line is going to be in front of another line. And this is something that is usually achieved in print, magazine, newspapers, books, but you can totally work it on the web. How does it work? Okay. So it's available on my website. I'm going to share with you I'm going to share with you during this talk, so you can play with it. Actually, the link is to it's a shareable, it's a designer shareable link, so you can play with it. You can see what decisions have been made to try to keep this scale working with a vertical rhythm. All the blue bullets are highlighting the configuration of every typographic element, actually. All right, where am I? Okay, I have to follow my own stuff. Okay, I have here put something about what we're not gonna talk about. We're not gonna talk about units. We're not gonna talk about style guides. You're not gonna talk about Comic Sans. We're not gonna list the best typefaces. I actually would like Devin Fontaine to do that on another talk one day, because he has like a great taste in typography and he knows a lot typefaces. We're not going to talk too much about where you can find great fonts. We're not going to talk about font and text in SVG. We're not going to talk about font plugins in Figma. Only this one. Okay, there's there's a plugin that I use all the time in Figma that is called Font Scanner. And if a client gives you a Figma design and a font, a typeface he just bought on a type website, so it's going to give you a typeface made of like many fonts, and you don't want to upload them all to Webflow because it's going to be too much, and you're not sure how many of them he used. So you run this plugin on your Figma document, and it just gives you an assessment of your document. So it's only going to list the font that are in use. So you can just take this list and use it to upload on your website. We're not going to talk about how to design a font, and we are not going to talk about 3D font yet. I would like one day we talk about 3D font, because there are like some things that are quite cool. I would like to just talk about one unit, and this unit is the CH unit. I tweeted about it recently. I was reading a Wikipedia page, and it happens like that. It's like very cumbersome to read. You cannot really scan the text, and there's like a very easy solution when you run into that kind of design. The solution is to use the CH unit, and the CH unit, it doesn't have to be set on the font, on the text element itself. It has to be set on the wrapper, on the container of the font. And if you set it to, for example, 66 CH, you're reducing the container and the length of each line of text to something that is 66 times the size of the 0 in the base font, which is an acknowledged ideal length for a line, so that your brain can ideally scan the text, and you are very much at ease. Like an example of when it's not set and when it's set, and it has to be set on the container, because you don't want your headings to be longer than your paragraph, etc. So it's going to take the width of a 0 character of a paragraph, and everything is going to be dimensions considering that. If you like fonts and typefaces, you can search for fonts and typeface and scale and everything on the Webflow showcase and the Webflow templates directory, and you will find great stuff, and maybe stuff you have already seen, like fonts websites. that have been made in Webflow now with like a lot of interactions, and it's very nice. So it's a good idea when you want to browse for inspiration to just search for the word font or typeface in the Webflow showcase. Okay, a little thing about color fonts. And I'm gonna actually just share this part of the screen. And I have a demo here. Okay, look at that. So color fonts are a thing. This, what you have in front of your eyes, are not fonts that I have defined color on. And they're not also fonts that I'm using clip mask on to color them or texture them. They are actually colored fonts. They exist as colored fonts. That's what they look. That's how they've been created. And you can. There's various type of them. The most popular are SVGs and color fonts. Depending on what they are, they're going to be compatible with everything but Chrome or everything and Chrome. And the funny thing is, like, a color font is colored, so it appears colored even in the UI of Webflow. If I go here to my font panel, I have loaded some here on Webflow. So you can see you have 3D colored fonts, multicolor fonts, and they appear like that, colored. And they also appear colored in the UI here. So it's very funny to play with those fonts. They exist. You have like a lot of resources that I have linked here. You can start with this one, Gilbert Color. It works in all your programs like Illustrator, Photoshop, Figma, and it's going to work on the web, depending if it's SVG or color. So you can try to find the color font made of the Microsoft format, color. They're going to work everywhere. You have a few great resources here that you can use, and other ones here. Some color fonts are really great, like this metal color font can be driven with a CSS code, where you can define the number for the base palette and an override color. So you can have many color for this metal font, and we will see later how we can animate it too. So that's one very cool thing you can do with fonts. Another great thing you can do with fonts is to use the layered fonts. They're also called chromatic fonts. I have another demo here, layered fonts. Okay, so here I have an example. I have loaded here Bungie, 4 fonts from the Bungie collection: the regular, the outline, the inline, and the shadow. And you can see that multi-layer fonts are layered. So by putting one on top of the other, we can make a lot of variations. For example, I love this website. I love this one. Okay, this one, it's Rocket Abstraction, I think. Rosella, yeah, Rosella. So Rosella is composed of all those variations, and you're supposed to put them one on top of the other, and you can achieve many things. You can keep them all black and white or shades of gray, but you can add color to the layers you want, and you can do a lot of variations, and it's absolutely great for your headlines. So here I have played with those 4 bases. Here I'm using the regular plus shadow on Webflow. So I'm going to show you here what's happening. I have laid over. I have one that is like absolute with a -1 index and one on top, and the regular on top. So I have a shaded effect. The same but colored. Here I'm using 3 of them: the regular, the shadow, and the inline. I have colored the inline in yellow, so I have this effect. And here I have used the regular and the outline. So this is great to use. There's a little problem here that we're going to address because I want to give you the technique of how to use it, on how to use the layered fonts for your CMS websites. When you're using this technique for your CMS website, so you want to pull the text from the CMS. I have just created this collection here. So it's just hello world, and that's just that, the title. But I don't want to have several heading elements, one on top or the other of the other. It would be terrible in terms of accessibility. And I don't want to have one heading and one text element that is saying the same. That would also be a problem for accessibility. So we can use here CSS pseudo element after. Pseudo element, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but pseudo element is one of the only way to add contents to the page using CSS. The code basically says, take this class, and after this class, paste this content. And as a content, so it's text content usually. So for this content, I have used a variable here. And this variable is, of course, taken from the CMS. So I have my block here. And if I edit it, you can see that I have picked it from the CMS. And then I position it absolute, and I do what's necessary to put it right under my H1, and I have my text. If I change my text in my CMS, I'm in read-only mode, so I'm not going to do it. I have followed my own link. I'm so sorry. All right, let's do it again. Okay, so so this way you can craft layered fonts that are going to work with your CMS, and you can design headlines like you've never done before. Is everybody still there? I already have like no sound.
Of course.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay. This is like I'm in a void. Layered fonts. I have put like great resources to find laser fonts. My font is listing a lot of chromatic fonts, color font, layer fonts. They're all quite expensive, but it's a great way to have to get inspiration. I have put a link to a very old Webflow blog post that I have written about it, and it's on my blog too. Okay, this is a technique I love to use. All right, next one is font features. It's a very important thing. Font features is a very important thing. Your clients are going to buy a typeface and give you the files, and you have to check the files for them and to tell them what they can really do with the files, because there's usually a document that is attached to the font or a web page that is called a manifest or a specimen. And for example, we have this font that I worked with on a website recently. It's called Robert, And let's have a look to the specimen. So that's a specimen document that is coming with a font. It comes with every good font. So it's detailing what you can do with the font. And at the end, usually you have what you can add to the font. Especially the stylistic sets. They're usually numbered from 1 to 9. Here there are 8 of them, and they have like little specificities, okay? Here the A is different. Here the G's are different. The J's are different. The G's. Here is just like the Y that is like this. Here is just a comma. Here you have a different 8. Here you have ligatures that are different, the fractions and alternates too. So I have like a demo of that here. How do you use that in Webflow? So you have a font like this. For example, this is a Boside Classic Clear, but you have somewhere in your design usage of numbers, and you want the numbers to be aligned. And usually a good font has an option for the numbers to be monospaced. So here it's exactly the same font, but the number are monospaced. So it means like you can write as many numbers as you want. They're always going to be nicely aligned in columns. And when you want to present figures and everything, this is very important. So we have just checked on the document that we had before. I lost it. It's here, and you just check what is the name of the feature, and you add it as custom code. So we have all our custom code here. So I've added a class and a declaration, so a series of rules for all the stylistic features, and also one for the fractions, one for the mono. It's here. It's the Chinum one, and one for turning off ligatures. So what does it do? Here we have a variation of this font, but monospaced. Here we have the A we had before, the G's we had before, everything I showed you, but it's like real text in Webflow. It's really the same font, but it has an extra class that is activating. If I remove that combo class, it's not there anymore. It was the 6. If I add it again, we have the feature again. So it's like little things, but those fonts are usually costly, and it's very nice to use the little things that are going to make the difference. Here you have all the not automatic ligatures, so it's special ligatures. But sometimes you want the fractions, sometimes you want to change the look of some letters. And also, this is interesting. The last one is interesting because usually, more and more, the standard ligatures are on. Here, if you type offline with FFL, it's gonna make a ligature by itself. But you may, or official, but you may want to deactivate them. So this way it works. It works in reverse. You have to turn them off, and you can always turn them off using CSS code. So you can control that. When your client has invested in a typeface, it's great to look at the specimen document to check for him everything cool that he can do with his new typeface, and to propose to him to add the little details, especially if he has used the typeface as a word mark to write his brand. So you can be a provider of good ideas to your client. And you have to check this website. This is a complete CSS demo for open type features. This page, you should let it open on your browser for like until spring. And you have to check everything. It's a list. It's a great list of all the features you can find in fonts. With for every example, you have a feature font that you can download, and you can try all the features for yourself. You're going to find ligatures, You're going to find 3D effects. You're going to find like a lot of things. This page is huge. And it's going to tell you everything you need to know about the CSS that can control the fonts. And I'm sure you're going to dig the fonts you love and that you own the files for, and check the specimen. You can just Google the name of the font, specimen.pdf, and you're going to find most likely going to find the document for. And you can explore the end of the documents and find great idea, great specificities. So definitely check this website.
So if I go to, for example, Creative Market, and they have a font I like, and they have a special one where, I don't know, the E and the A connect with like a special ligature, can I activate it, or do I need the CSS for that, or like how does that work?
You activate it using the CSS. You're going to come back to here, to this page. You have to keep this page. It's a good resource, or you can find another one. But at the top of the page, you have all the tags. Okay, all those tags are used by all the font makers to control the ligatures, the alternates characters, the positioning, the everything for digits and maths, stylistic sets from 0 to 20. So you're just looking for what you need. If it's a special character, it's going to be most likely a stylistic set. If it's a special ligature, it's going to be a liga, etc., etc. So you find it here, you click on it. For example, let's find a liga. Okay, liga, you click on it. You have an example, and what you're looking for is that. Okay, and then you're going to copy that code. You're going to go to your project. You put it somewhere inside of your page, of course, because you want to see the effects within the designer. So you need a custom code block inside of the page, and you're going to paste your code. Okay, and here I did it already, but you're going to paste your code. You're not obliged to keep the class name that the website gave you. You can just invent your class name, like special ligature. And then you select your text, and you just have to add. You just have to add your thing on as a combo class. Well, it's not working here because I did whatever, but it's as simple as that. So the most difficult part is to make the connection between the specimen page with what they tell you. For example, here they don't give you the tag, but they give you titling alternates. So you check that, and you go on your page. You search in the page, titling alternate, boom, hits here. Okay, so I know that I need this code.
Okay, I think we need a minute for a round of applause.
Wow, that exists.
This is
I feel
so
great
amazing
because I'm so excited by that. Like the font,
everybody's
features, like
flipping out here in the chat.
Every time that a client gives me a font, I'm like, hey, let's take a time. Let's take a moment. Let's take a moment.
So cool.
Okay, of course, you can use those features in your favorite tools. I don't know if Figma support them, but most definitely Illustrator is supporting them. They do? Great. I'm not surprised. So you can use those features in your favorite softwares, of course. And it's great. Once again, if you... I tell you again what a word mark is. A word mark is when you decide to do your logo, your company logo, mostly from a font. And it's great because it's so easy to replicate everywhere. But by inspecting the specimen file, you can check like this character is not designed like any other, and use it in your word mark. And it's going to add some kind of difference between the word mark and the standard use of the font. A that is different. Just that is enough to make the difference. So if you want to know how to use that in Figma, check with Devin.
Stop throwing me under the bus.
Why? It's not a big bus. Okay, so if you want to go a bit further, I want to share with you the work of Alex Sigurdson that is working for an agency called Lord. I work with Lord as a Webflow builder. They give me outstanding designs, and it's always a challenge. Sometimes I just spend like 3 days on the navbar. It happens on their work. So Alex loves to play with type, and is creating types actually from scratch sometimes. But sometimes he's taking an existing type and is using, for example, for the Swile project. Let's see the Swile project. Here, it's a website, so it's a card that you can pay your food when you're an employee with. So they have this nice font, and they have this nice logo that is made with the font, but not the original font. So that's the website. They didn't do it in Webflow, but they could have. So the base font is an open source font because you need to have the right to modify a font. It's called Open Source Font, and he used not Glyphs Mini but Glyphs Pro. It's like $300. Glyphs Mini is way cheaper. So it's an app to design font or to modify fonts, and he used this open source font in this app to modify a few characters like the L, the I, the W, to achieve something unique that is used on not only the Swile website but also everywhere for their brand design. So they have like rule sets here that are explaining how the characters are used. I have an animation somewhere that is supposed to show the outcome of it. Is it gonna? Okay. So here you can see the result after the programmation of the file on how the ligature, using the ligature rules, modify the font, and how the font can use by itself the appropriate modified character. So I have made something here that you can come back and check in detail. Not everything is translated. How we create it's screenshots of the app on how we created classes and how it defines character sets, how it puts variables on a character set, and finally the list of the rules for the different ligatures. And I think this is like outstanding work because this is so unique. It gives like a very good look to the brand, and it looks like nothing else. So you can do that for yourself or for your clients. You can take a font. It's very easy if you are just modifying a bit what is existing. Take a font you have, load it into Glyph Mini, for example, which is cheap, and you can modify just one letter, or two, or three. Just put the amount of work you want to put in, but you can make it yours. You can add like a little hint of a logo inside of an A character, for example. You can alter the termination of one other letter in a very specific way, and you're going to find a lot of open source typeface to work with. Another example of Alex's work is NovaPulse. For NovaPulse, he had created a font from scratch, and a typeface from scratch, and this typeface looks like this. But when he started to use it, the typeface was too graphic, too different, and not very legible. So instead of modifying it all, he used Glyph to mix a standard font with the font he had created. And he had like, this typeface has like a lot of rules. And when you see the websites, you can think that, sorry, it looks like, okay, what? You can think it's bugging actually, but it's not. It's just like one sentence in the same font, but with different rules. So some words, depending on what the rules are, it's actually all ligatures, and it gives this unique effect actually.
Vincent, is the sans serif his font as well?
I didn't get that. Sorry.
The sans serif part of this font, is that his as well? Like he designed the sans serif?
What is the sans serif? Sorry.
Like the non-graphical letters, did he do those? Or did he mix them from another typeface?
Those? Yes, I think he did them. Like maybe some work he did before, or some open source fonts of his own. Actually, I don't know the specifics of it, but
I was going to ask about legality, but yeah, that makes sense.
But what is sure, and it's a good question, because out of it we can tell something that is important. Open source font, like don't take a font. Fonts are not protected files, but don't take a font you have bought, even if it's expensive, and put it in Glyph and modify them. You cannot do that. You don't have the license to do that, and you will never have the license to do that. So when you want to modify a font, when you want to take a font to mix and match with that other one, you have to have the rights to do that. So you need an open source font, because even if you take a free font, you don't necessarily have the right to do it. You need something that has a clear license allowing you to do that. Don't put yourself or your clients into trouble. Font makers are very, very picky about what you can do or not. I'll get you the answer. Devin. You can read that later, but I made ChatGPT write a poem about variable fonts. It's quite nice. Okay, so it's about variable fonts. Since this morning, variable fonts are live for everyone on Webflow. So in the designer, you can go and upload variable fonts. I advise you to start with Robotoflex, for example, because it's a font that has a lot of variations. You should read that page. That page on Google Font is going to tell you a lot of things. It's going to list all the fonts, all the variable fonts available on Google with all the different variations. And we call those variation axes. And at the end of the table, you have a definition for every axis. Or you can use something I've done for you for this talk. It's this page. I'm going to publish it and we're going to go see it live. This page is like showing you, I'm going to show you how it's made. For every standard axis, so variation of a variable font, I've made a demo here by changing, for example, here, big text demo, and the font variations are available here at the bottom of the typography panel. I have changed the values and made them on hover. So now you have on one page everything that works on hover. So you can check, you have like the name, the description, and you have like a demo on hover. So slant is the same as italic. Actually, it's going to be a bit difficult to explain, but the font designers are just choosing what they name the variations of their fonts. The axis is it's just a word actually. So there are conventions. The one I'm listing here are mostly used by everyone for the moment, but you can invent more. If you do a new effect, you can put whatever name you want. So it's just a convention. So here you have them all listed. Optical size. So yeah, go back to slant. You're gonna find slant and ital for italics, but it's actually the same. There's absolutely no difference. You have one called optical size, who's changing the size of the font optically, the weight and the width. Here it makes the ascenders of the font change, so it's everything that goes above the standard line of the characters. Some I couldn't demo because they're too subtle. The suited, the casual variation can change drastically the look of a font. The counter width can totally change the look of a font. The cursive is doing that kind of effect. You have the descender, and here I mixed the ascender we had here and the descender. So you have this effect where everything that is going up or down of the font is moving. Here, this one is very subtle. It's only changing the highlight of this 3D font. This one is very subtle, so I prefer to put a GIF to show you what it does. This one has like, this one is changing every bit of this font into a different kind of shape. So it's like a 5-second animation, just to show you how much things can change. The element shape is rarely used, and extrusion depth is rarely used too. But look what you can do with extrusion depth. Like this variable font has a value for extrusion, so you can do that. And by adding another displacement effect, you can actually do the inverse.
So you built this for us
Yeah.
to use?
Yes.
Oh my God, Vincent, that is
Look,
so
it's called
nice.
like yeah, there's a little party icon.
This is so cool, guys.
The YTFI is the figure height, so it's only impacting the figures. This one's filled. I couldn't make it work, honestly. The square that I read, I couldn't find any font that worked with those variations, so I kind of demo them, and I couldn't find any animation to show you either. The grade is this one is very interesting. This one, you will play with it. It's only making the font bolder from the outside to the inside. So nothing changes outside of the font, but it gets bolder anyway. This one is just changing the lowercase characters. The monospace, we had a great demo before. The wonky is just changing the direction of some characteristic of a font. The softness is very, very subtle. This is parametric axis for varying thick stroke weight, such as stems. Okay, so I did two of them, like one that is going from 0 to 100 and one that is going from -100 to 0. And the same here, because I thought the demo was more appropriate like this. The uppercase we had, like it's the inverse of the one we just saw before. And that's the end of the demo for everything that is listed on Google. Where's the website? On that website. That is explaining the standard variations. But Font designers can invent new ways to deform, to make the font vary, and for every effect they create a name. What is great is that whatever they create, Webflow is already supporting, because the technology is very actually super dumb. All the complexity of this technology resides inside of the font file. The way we call the variations and the way we play with them, it's the same for every variation. There is a name, which is like a free vocabulary. You call it whatever you want. And there's a slider for varying the values, and you just define from where to where the value are going to be. So some are like from 0 to 100, and some are going from minus 1,000 to 1,000. So this one, you'll be able to inspect that very closely on the website. When I give you the cloning link, you can check what font I have used and what properties I'm using to modify them. So here you could say, well, this is the same as modifying the tracking between character. No, it would do that. So this is a more complex thing where there's like one element in between on each character that is enlarging along with and also pushing all the rest to the right. So you can have this kind of unique effect. This one is kind of incredible. Look at that. It goes from negative to positive. It's called emotional. This is quite unique.
That is so cool.
Totally transforms the font.
Amazing.
This one it's a font called Decovar, and Decovar is made of that much variations, and they're all not standard, actually. This one is like modifying the inline. This one is modifying the shear, so it's like a little slant here, but just on the edges. This one is transforming a saw to a slab. It's really great, and you have like all that much to experiment with this font. So Webflow supports everything that is listed on Google here, plus everything that designers can invent. And you would not believe how much they invent. I have listed this website here that you have to check. It's vfont.com. And this website, my God, it's full of fonts with different variations. Some you can download because they're open source, some you have to pay for, but it's like a great resource to learn what you can do with font. Look at this one. This variation is called pump, and it's not very much working with my device, but it's kind of unique too. It's too long to review them all, of course, but I'll let you play with it. It's kind of amazing. So Webflow is ready for everything that is coming, for everything you wanna create. You can take a font that is not a variable font. You can open the app, the Glyph app I showed you before, and you can try to experiment with variable fonts and see what you want, what you can make and what you want to make. There's something Webflow is not supporting, though. It's regarding what you can use for the fonts inside of interactions. I've made another page here, and we can review. So for this page, I took the containers of the fonts, and I added an interaction here based on scroll. And here I have called the font variations. I've chose the variation here, and this is like every other while scrolling in view interaction. I go from one value to the other. And there's an interesting thing about it. So you scroll, and the font vary. This one is on weight. This one is on slant. Don't mind the text. This was an optical size. And this is a weird font from before. And you're going to say, because normally Webflow is only, if I take the font here, if I want to add another one of the font variation, Webflow is only supporting weight, optical size, width, and slant. Nothing else. And what we had before, when I showed you this one, which is very, very weird, actually. This is nothing like a width or a slant or a weight or optical size. It's like a totally unique effect. But the developer must be a bit lazy, because this axis, he called it, he didn't name it, he called it width. And I told you before that a name is a name, it's just a vocabulary. So he called it width. So Webflow lists it, and you can animate it with interaction. So it opens a way to hack yourself, to hack your way into making Webflow interactions supporting any axis you want. If there is an axis you want to make interaction work with in Webflow, you just have to open you have to open the font in a font editor, and you can rename the axis from whatever it's named to one of the 4 axes Webflow is supporting, for example, width. And then you're going to be able to animate it using interaction. So it's a bit hacky, but it's a possibility. You have more links here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to cover them all, because like there are huge websites behind that. Okay, what do we have here? The last one, I guess. Unicorns. Melissa, I lied, actually.
Why?
It's not unicorns. I meant Unicode. Unicode,
I knew you had this
not unicorns.
plan.
Silly. Okay, I just perfect. Okay, I'm using Unicode every minute of my life, actually, and I want you. It's not about typography. It's not about. It's about the characters that are in fonts. Quite every font is containing a lot of character you're using every day. A lot of very useful characters, not only the emojis, but the Unicode character, Unicode tables. So you have like shapes, arrows, all the kind of fonts, all the kind of characters you want. And many
I get
apps.
a lot of fonts that come with that stuff, and I never use them.
So you can use on your Mac, for example, you go to settings and keyboard, and you can set keyboard. You can set keyboard replacements, so that when you type something here, like for example, when I type, oh, it doesn't work in FigJam. My stupid demo. I'm gonna try here. Yeah, I'm gonna try on top. When I type that, I have an arrow. When I tap this, I have the command sign, so I can do a shortcut like very easily. Or I have like, if I type VV space, this is my email. I'm never typing my email. If I type, do I use it all the time? I have me or flip when I'm hungry, when I'm angry. Okay, you can define, or if I always type Webflow good because it corrects every kind of mistake I can do on Webflow, on the Webflow name. You can do what you want with those text replacement, and that they're supposed to make your life easier. What's great if you're using Mac and iPhone is like if you define one text replacement on one of your device, it propagates to your cloud account. It's in sync. So define them on your Mac, they work on your iPhone. Define them on your phone, they work on your computer, etc., etc. So define them once. You're never going to lose them because they are part of your cloud account. This is a great way never to have to type your email again, for example. And that's it. That was my final joke about unicorns and not being unicorns, but Unicode.
It was great. We appreciated it.
Did we? Yeah. Did we open everything? It was like an advent calendar, actually.
What
Yeah,
a
that was great.
presentation!
I have a
Thank you.
question.
Yes.
I asked this way early on, but I didn't want to interrupt you. I actually lost the question in chat. I have no idea what exactly I wrote, but when you were showing off some of the typefaces that had color in them, I think it's like one that had multiple colors. Yeah, the Gilbert color.
Okay.
How does that work with color contrast? No, just no. Doesn't.
No. Is it no? Color contrast.
Yeah. How how does that affect color contrast on the web if you can't exactly control the color of the font? Like how do you deal with?
It's a
having a higher
downside of it.
contrast?
You
Yeah.
use it or not, actually, and it's
Okay.
going to be difficult when you select it in Webflow. It's going to be difficult for Webflow to give you an assessment of that font against your background because it's made of a lot of colors. You cannot change the color of that font. You're going to need to assess the accessibility of it by yourself. Is it enough? Is it not enough? On this one, you cannot change anything, but on the one that I showed you after, on the metal one, you can quite change a lot of things. But this, like, I can tell you that this is hardly accessible. Someone that is like having difficulties with colors and contrast, this font is like 3D with shininess and everything.
Yeah.
It must be horrible to begin with. So yeah, let's face it. Good question, but you need fallbacks, actually.
Yeah, I think these fonts, those ones are like they literally have to be for a specific use case that just works for them.
They usually are created for one project, you know. There is like you put one designer on it. They're created for one project, but there's like little use if you go on all those websites that are providing you with those kind of fonts. The color fonts are something I had to talk about. I don't see many people want to use them, but it was leading to the layered fonts, and the layered fonts, in my opinion, are more interesting because they're graphical. You can make a lot of things with just a set of font, and those things you can see very often as graphics on Dribble or things like that. And if you can make such headings on your CMS websites, I find fantastic. So I think the layered fonts, chromatic fonts are much more empowering for your projects than the colored fonts that are a bit gimmicky. Probably not using the right words, but you see what I mean.
Yeah. So cool.
I want to tomorrow I will Okay, you have like read-only links to this website. There's a homepage linking to all the pages. I'll make it clonable tomorrow, so you can come back and clone that website for yourself, and you have
Cool.
most of the techniques we talked about, including the color fonts. This, I still find it hilarious that the color fonts are appearing colored in the UI.
Devin told us that when we were at the conference that you guys were sitting together, and when they announced variable fonts, you both like looking at each other just like little kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is so cool. Well, thank you so much for this. Yeah, go ahead.
No, it's okay. It's just like this one, the Gilbert doesn't appear colored here because it's a SVG color font, and it's only going to appear colored on browsers that are not Chrome. So it works in Safari.
Oh, cute. On browsers that are not what?
Chrome. SVG color font don't work on Chrome.
Okay, that's one of those. Okay.
Okay.
That's so
it's
cool.
written somewhere. I don't know. Yeah, here. You have the compatibility tables here.
That is so cool.
Other questions? What time is it? 8.
It's 2:16. Guys, anybody has questions? You can unmute yourselves if you have any questions for Vincent.
After studying everything he said, tomorrow we will have other questions.
I'll be happy to answer it then.
This is amazing. Again, wow. No.
Every time Vincent comes, it's amazing, honestly.
Well, it's like I've only talked about fun things. Yeah, someone wanted to say something.
This is a great presentation. Thank you so much for putting this together.
Yeah.
Thank you, John.
Especially this presentation, which I feel it's like the design is so great. You know, I love it because it's like the little step by step and then the little different worlds of fonts. It's like a museum.
Yeah. My notes were messy because I'm writing notes for that for a long time, and they were messy, and it was just a way to keep the thing messy. I didn't know in what order I wanted to address things, and I think I'll continue to use FigJam for the next parties, and I will just work directly in FigJam. I'm going to open a new FigJam for the next one, and I'm going to just start on it. And when I have time, I will do logical block gather, and then I'll do a path to present them. Originally, I wanted, because yesterday Apple unveiled one of the part of iOS 16 and the new macOS 2. It's called Freeform. Freeform. It's an app. Freeform app, and it's supposed to be like this, but it's actually so bad. There's no drawing tool on Mac. You can only draw on iPad and on phone. So it's promising, but it's. So I was so frustrated because I was planning to use it. So I came back to FigJam that I never had really used, and I was very pleased because it's very fun, actually.
I love it. Can we share this, like when we share the recording for your party?
Yeah, of course. It's here to stay. Once again, all the little blocks, they are links to all the resources I gathered here, and I didn't went into detail on. So come back. It's gonna stay there.
Yay. Okay, amazing. Thank you so much, Vincent. We appreciate this so much. You have no idea.
I love the special effects.
It's a standing ovation.